Today, over 150 former national security officials, including several who served in the Trump administration, wrote to the Trump administration to urge them to officially name Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the apparent president and vice president-elect. The technical step that is required to get government transition resources flowing. They warn that, quote, delaying the transition further poses a serious risk to our national security. And even as the lack of a presidential transition process may be doing unknown harm to national security, President Trump continues to clean house across the intelligence and national security establishment in the U.S. government. We've written reporting for the last few days about the firings at the Defense Department and the installation of Trump loyalists at the top levels of the Pentagon. Well, today, President Trump appears to have started clearing out the government's top cybersecurity officials. The Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, is definitely not a household name, but throughout 2020, it was at the center of preventing foreign interference in the election, both by preventing cyber attacks, but also by pushing back on internet disinformation about the election. Today, Reuters reports that the assistant director for cybersecurity at CISA was forced to resign. And the widely respected head of the agency, Chris Krebs, is telling associates that he expects to be fired. Here's what's particularly crazy about this. Just today, CISA joined several other government agencies in a celebratory statement announcing that, quote, the November 3rd election was the most secure in American history. There is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. It's amazing news. Imagine being the president of the United States and seeing that statement and being upset by it. But apparently, it is CISA's insistence that it did the job it was supposed to do, that it successfully helped protect American elections, that has made Donald Trump so angry. Chris Krebs, quote, drew the ire of the Trump White House over a website run by CISA dubbed Rumor Control, which debunks misinformation about the election. White House officials have asked for content to be edited or removed, which pushed back against numerous false claims about the election, including that Democrats are behind a mass election fraud scheme. This makes your head spin. The top cybersecurity official, his whole job is to protect the integrity of the election, and he did. But the president says the election was fraudulent, so the guy has got to be fired. And in just a moment, we're going to speak with a key Democratic senator who has worked on election security and knows Chris Krebs about how concerned we should all be about what the president is doing here. But this story, once again, gets at the tension we've been talking about all week. On one hand, it seems very, very bad that the president is clearing house in all these national security posts as he refuses to concede defeat in the election. It can look sinister and scary. But if Trump is just firing his top cybersecurity official because he's mad that the guy debunks his Twitter conspiracy theories, well, that feels less sinister and more petulant and silly. And if you're looking for more evidence that Trump and his allies are not really engaged in a serious or competent attempt to hold on to power, today in Arizona, a Trump campaign lawyer attempted to submit as evidence a stack of online forms filled out by random people who claimed they had witnessed or heard about voting irregularities. Even the Trump lawyer admitted the forms were full of lies and, quote, spam. The judge would not allow the so-called evidence. The Trump lawyer was later forced to admit in court, quote, this is not a fraud case. It is not a stealing the election case, which maybe he should tell the president. Meanwhile, another Trump lawyer attempted to file an election lawsuit with a federal court that has no jurisdiction over elections. A legal dream team this is not.